Hello everyone, I am Dr. Giri. Welcome to my Research Methodology channel. In this channel, we will discuss the research methodology and biostatistics in a way that is useful for undergraduates, postgraduates, and PhD scholars. Today, we will dive into the basics of research, setting a foundation for the upcoming discussions. In the next sessions, we will detail the key aspects of research methodology and biostatistics. Stay tuned and let us begin the journey together. Today's session, the introductory part, the craft of research. After today's session, you will be able to understand philosophy, definition and methodology of research, objectives and scope of research, scientific foundations of research, evidence-based medicine, categories of research, and ethical considerations in research. The wisdom hierarchy and philosophy, or knowledge hierarchy, or data, information, knowledge, wisdom hierarchy. It is a model that illustrates how raw data can be transformed into insights and wisdom. The model is represented as a pyramid with each level building on the previous one. Raw facts are called data, and processed data is called information. And the information has insights and context, it becomes knowledge. Then the judgment and decision making on the basis of knowledge is wisdom. So the data, information, knowledge, wisdom is a model network that can help individuals and organizations make better decisions and leverage their data more effectively. We will take the example of a patient's fever. So the thermometer shows 102 °F. The patient's heart rate is 98 beats per minute. The blood test WBC count shows 12,000 millimeter cube. So these are raw facts. The information is that the patient has high fever, including that knowledge as a part to reach that wisdom. In qualitative research and quantitative research, the philosophy is different. The research wholly depends on the philosophical concept. That is why it can be manipulated on the basis of the scientific rationale. Next, we will move to the etymology and definitions. The word research is derived from the Middle French researcher, which means to go about seeking. Research is a process of steps used to collect and analyze information to increase our understanding of a topic or issue. It consists of 3 steps: to pose a question, to collect data to answer that question, and present an answer to that question. Actually, these 3 steps are very much important. This is called research methodology. This is the research itself. In the coming sessions, we will discuss this as steps in research process. Finding an answer to an unanswered question is research. But the answer has to be accepted by the scientific community. The methodology employed should be in a scientific and flawless manner. Definitions of statistics and biostatistics. Statistics is the grammar of science. Statistics can be defined as a science of collecting, classifying, presenting, and interpreting data related to any sphere of inquiry. So we can see that a collection, classifying, presenting, and interpreting data collection is very much important in statistics. Biostatistics is the application of statistics in biology. Biostatistics are the development and application of statistical methods to a wide range of topics in biology. It encompasses the design of biological experiments, the collection and analysis of data from those experiments, and interpretation of the results. So let us see what is methodology and method. Methods may be understood as those methods, techniques that are used for the conduction of research. Methodology is the way of systematically solve the research problem. It may be understood as a science of studying how research is done scientifically. Here, we can say that the techniques adopted for the methodology can be considered as methods. There are some different objectives or target to achieve the objective in the research problem or research question. The difference between target, objective, and goal has to be remembered here. With an example, I will explain it. To win a war is a goal. To win a battle is an objective. To capture the bridge by tonight is the target. Next is objectives of research. To discover new knowledge, to solve existing problems, to validate existing knowledge, to develop tools and methodologies, to predict future trends, to contribute to the policy formulation, to foster academic growth. So all what we are seeing in our world today because of the research only. So for all these things, for the development of the country, for the research development and policy making, decision making, for everything, research is required. If the government is having a fund, they want to utilize that fund. In which way that fund has to be utilized, research only can find that way. Scope of research. I have enlisted some important points like multidisciplinary relevance, practical applications, societal impact, technological advancement, evidence-based practices, policy and decision making. Then all these some of the important scope of research. Why the objective and scope is important? By defining clear objectives and boundaries, research can achieve meaningful outcomes and foster innovation across disciplines. And in this, we are addressing the limitation and challenges of the research also. The resource constraints are main problem, and the limited funding, time, and expertise. And another thing is that the challenge is that ethical and methodological challenges, particularly in sensitive areas like health research. And in health research itself, when an outbreak comes, the methodology and ethical issues really becomes hurdles for the research. Next, we will move to the research and development. Research and development are mutually dependent, meaning that one cannot effectively progress without other. As the research provides the knowledge base to development, while the development provides the practical application for research findings to create new products or processes. That is, research informs developments. Development tests the research. It is interconnected. Research and development are considered a continuous cycle where insights from research inform the development process, and the results of the development can lead to new research questions. More research, more development. The more development, the more research. Order, inference and chance, evaluation of probability, and hypothesis are scientific foundations of research. Let us see one by one. Order. The scientific method differs from the common sense because it employs systematic observation and classification of entities based on shared properties and behaviors. The process enables predictions that may evolve into scientific laws. Next is inference and chance. Reasoning in research of two types, that is deductive reasoning and inductive reasoning. Deductive reasoning moves general to public and inductive reasoning moves from specific to general. In health research, usually the inductive reasoning, that is from specific to general, is taken into consideration. That is from a sample to the population. So it is called generalization. In biostatistics, it is called inductive inference. That is the beauty of statistics. Next is evaluation of probability. The probability evaluation gives the research integrity and validity. Using the representative sampling, randomization, and comparison group for reducing the bias, then blinding and statistical methods for analyzing. So this gives the integrity and validity. Next is hypothesis. Hypotheses are carefully constructed to explain phenomena and identify causes. So there are four types of Will-Cannon's inductive reasoning, that is method of reference, method of agreement, method of concomitant variation, and method of analogy. We'll see one by one by simple example. Method of difference, that identify factors unique to specific conditions. Example is smoking and lung cancer. Method of agreement links common factors across various scenarios. Example, hepatitis A and hygiene condition. Next is method of concomitant variation. Examines dose response effects, that is iodine levels and goiter prevalence. Method of analogy compares disease patterns to suggest common causes. Example is hepatitis B and liver cancer. Evidence-based medicine is defined as a systematic approach to finding and analyzing published data for the basis of clinical decision making. This is the definition. Actually, it's the integration of the best research evidence with clinical expertise and patient values. To continue with, there are 5 steps in evidence-based medicine. That is, formulation of a research question, finding the best evidence, the clinical appraisal of the evidence, applying evidence to the patient, then evaluation. As said earlier, the evaluation of probability, that gives the integrity and validity. The hierarchy of evidence has been ranked from 1 to 5 on the basis of parameters used, study design, quality of research, validity, and methodology. All these are scientific foundations of the research. Next is evidence-based medicine. On the level 5, you can see that animal and laboratory studies. Then next to that, case report or case studies. Next to that, case control studies, then cohort studies, then randomized control trials, then meta-analysis and systematic review, then clinical practice guidelines. In animal and laboratory studies, there is no humans involved. In case report or case studies, there is, even though humans involved, there is no design. In case control studies, it is retrospective study, and cohort studies are usually prospective study, and we will learn the retrospective cohort study also. But there is no randomization. So that is why it comes just below to randomized control trials. After the randomized control trial, meta-analysis and systematic review. The systematic review comprehensively summarizes existing literature on a specific research question. A meta-analysis is a technique used in systematic reviews to quantitatively combine results from multiple results. That means in meta-analysis, the systematic review is involved, plus a statistical analysis is also there. But in systematic review, there is no statistical analysis. After that, a clinical practice guideline is developed. Research has been categorized into 3 based on philosophical approach, functional approach, and operation linked categories. In philosophical approach, empirical and theoretical research. The empirical and theoretical research complement each other. Empirical research is based on observation and experience. Theoretical research is based on theory and abstraction. In clinical research, basically it is empirical research. It is divided into qualitative research and quantitative research. In quantitative research, the quantification is done by measurement of variables, estimation of population parameters, statistical testing a hypothesis. Another category is based on functional approach, that is basic and applied research, or pure or applied research. In basic research, there is no goal, utility, or purpose, but the applied research is problem oriented. The goal sometimes can be achieved or may not be, but the objective, problem oriented, you should achieve that. So that is the basic difference. In health research triangle, whether it is empirical research or theoretical research, basic research or applied research, all will come under the health research triangle. That is the biomedical research, health services research, and behavioral research. Biomedical research deals primarily with basic research involving process at the cellular level. Health research deals with the environmental surrounding the man, and behavioral research deals with interaction of man and environment in a manner reflecting beliefs, attitudes, and practices of the individual society. Next, we will see the difference between quantitative research and qualitative research. In quantitative research, testing of theories and hypotheses is done, wherein in qualitative research, exploring ideas and formulating a theory or hypothesis. So usually, qualitative research is hypothesis generation and quantitative research hypothesis testing. And the analysis of the data is done by maths and statistical analysis in quantitative research, whereas in qualitative research is done by summarizing, categorizing, and interpreting. And the result we get in quantitative data is as percentage, numbers, figures like that. But in qualitative research, we get the results as concepts, beliefs, thought processes. So, in quantitative research, really expressed in numbers, graphs, and figures, wherein qualitative research, it will be expressed in concepts, thoughts, and experiences. Quantitative research requires many respondents, but in qualitative research, a few respondents. Key terms used in quantitative research are testing, measurement, objectivity, and applicability. In qualitative research, the terms used are understanding, context, complexity, and subjectivity. In quantitative research, correlation, causation, prediction is done, wherein qualitative research, contextualization, description, and explanation is done. In quantitative research, typically developed after literature review. Qualitative research, initial framework after literature review. In quantitative research, provides structure content for the whole study based on literature and personal experience, revised after the study. But in qualitative research, further developed as participants' views and issues are gathered and analyzed. Next, we will move to find the difference between explanatory research and pragmatic research. So let us see what is a pragmatic research. A pragmatic study is a research study that uses operational decisions to find solutions to problems. We can also refer to a clinical trial that studies a health intervention in a real world setting. We can say that in a clinical setting, if research is done, so that is a pragmatic study. Pragmatic studies can help decision makers allocate resources more effectively. They can help improve patient outcomes. They can help challenge the status quo in healthcare. Let us see the difference between the explanatory and pragmatic research. In explanatory, the measure is efficacy, wherein pragmatic study, the measure is effectiveness. If a controlled group is there, then a controlled condition is there, so definitely it is efficacy. Population, homogeneous population in explanatory study and reflects variation in pragmatic study. The population inclusion criteria in entry criteria in explanatory study is very strict because it affects the external and also the internal validity. Selection bias is reduced by randomization, blinding, and allocation concealment. But in pragmatic study, the bias is accepted. So mostly randomization sometimes will be there, and rarely blinding and placebo will be there. The outcome, intermediate outcomes we can make, but in pragmatic study, we assess for the health gains. Analysis, evaluability, then modified intent to treat. So intent to treat is not necessary in pragmatic study. Very important area is ethical considerations in research. Sukharta sarva bhudana mada sarva pravrittaya sukham cha vina dharma tasmat dharma paro bhavet. All activities of man are directed towards attaining happiness, whereas happiness is never achieved without virtuousness. It is the binding duty of man to be virtuous in his action. So the quality of being morally right and justifiable is addressed here. The Chara Samhita prescribes an elaborate code of conduct. The medical profession has to be motivated by compassion for living beings. The principles of ethics are respect for autonomy, beneficence, non-maleficence, and justice. That is, autonomy is the principle of self-determination, which means not manipulating others or pursuing them. Beneficence is the obligation to act in the best interest of others and to prevent or reduce harm. Non-maleficence, the obligation to not to cause harm to others. Justice, the principle of fairness and equality, which means treating people similarly in similar situations. I have enlisted key aspects of ethical considerations. These ethical considerations in research are fundamental to ensure integrity, respect, and responsibility towards participants, society, and scientific community. In this, informed consent is very important one. Informed consent is obtained from each participant before the intervention of the research. And the consent process must include three elements like information, comprehension, and volunteerness. It should be noted that at the time of obtaining the informed consent, the patient will be given patient information sheet that contains details of the research. In some conditions, the patient is unable to give informed consent in children and in patients with cognitive impairment. In that, the legal representative, either guardians or parents, can give the informed consent. So that is called assent. That is all about the basics of research methodology. Thank you for watching the video. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me. Don't forget to subscribe the channel and share it to others who might find it useful. In our next session, we will discuss steps in research process. Stay tuned. Have a great day.